You are listening to the USDN on the DSPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. And today we continue our journey into CHK Presents a horror anthology. This time we're stepping into the shadows with a creator who helps bring horror to life, not just through storytelling, but through line, texture, and tones. From inking pages that shape the final look of a story, to contributing to a twisted tale like Pete's Meats, to deliver a cover that sets the tone before you ever open the book. We're talking about the artist behind the ink. The Council of Nerds is now in session. Travis, welcome to the USDN.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Let's jump into it. And for everybody who is just now learning about Travis, who are you? And kind of what got you into inking comic books?
Oh, okay. That is a that's a bit of a can of worms. I'm from Canada, first off. So terrible winters, poutine, actual beer rather than bottled water, and really, really terrible CBC shows. As for what got me into comics, I mean, I've been into comics since I was a kid. Some of the first titles I picked up, my old man would get me from the gas station. They had a spinner rack and had the X-Men classics reprints of like late 70s, early 80s titles. So that was my first comics. When I saw the X-Men cartoon when it first came out in, what was it, 93 or whatever it was, I thought it was wrong because Storm had powers and she had hair rather than a mohawk. Right, so it really, threw me off at first, but that's when I got into comics, and it was, X-Men classics, Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man titles. At one point, I had a pull list for Alpha Flight because, again, Canadian, so Guardian, Vindicator, Shaman, Sasquatch, Puck, because of course Canada has a superhero named Puck, right? It only makes sense. And somewhere, I think it was probably around junior high, I just started drawing. I would always have a couple of comics with me in my binder, and I'd be just trying to replicate John Romita Jr.'s pencils over and over and over and over again. As a kid, what I wanted to do was actually work for Digital Chameleon, which for those who aren't old enough to know what Digital Chameleon is, they were the first company to apply digital colors to comics on a large scale. And they were actually based here out of Winnipeg, Canada. And they did work for Marvel and Image and DC. They got into inking and everything as well. And then they closed their doors in 2003, the year after I graduated high school. So the dream of working in comics, unless I moved to New York, which wasn't going to happen, pretty much completely died. I picked up art again as like a hobby, messing around on the iPad, probably about 5-ish years ago, and was just doing like, my D&D characters. I was doing a sketch of that, or, my old Power Ranger helmet, sitting out on the table and just trying to draw it just for something to do on the weekends. And through sheer dumb luck, ended up meeting somebody while online gaming, playing Destiny, that completely changed everything for me. Jerry Dugan, Marvel, DC writer, Deadpool, Guardians, Iron Man, X-Men. So I gamed with Jerry for several years. We still talk. He doesn't have enough time to game anymore. Obviously, they keep him pretty busy. But he saw on our Discord some of the stuff that I was doing just for fun. He's like, "Why are you not doing this for a career?"
Mm.
And it just sort of sat there and percolated as an idea in the back of my head. And then eventually I was February of 24. I was just doom scrolling, as we all do. And I saw this post by Gail Simone. She reposted some pencils that a Spawn penciler had done for a cover. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try inking this on the iPad just for fun. And got hooked, like very, very hooked. Went from doing like a piece a month to a piece a week. And then started adding colors to some things and did some mock covers and just kept playing around with it more and more and more. And then at our local Comic-Con here that October, I took what I had on my iPad and I figured, okay, I'm going to talk to the first guest artist in Artist Alley and show them what I've got and be like, is there anything here? Now, because I stopped reading comics after high school, because, life and bills and rent and dating and a kid and all that, I didn't know who anybody current was. And turns out the artist I walked up to is one of the big cover artists for Marvel these days, and he tore my stuff apart. Like, absolutely ripped it apart. Not in a mean way, but just like, you need to fix this, 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 they just this litany of things. And he ripped a page of Bristol out of his sketchbook, grabbed a brush, jotted down a whole bunch of different line types, and handed it to me. He says, practice these lines over and over and over and over again. When's the last time you held a brush? When's the last time you held a quill? 20 years ago? He says, you need to do that. You need to get back to that. If you can do that, you can do everything digitally and then some.
Yeah.
And immediately went online, ordered probably about $200 worth of pens and ink and quills and nibs, and I haven't looked back at this point. I'm at the point where I'm doing about a page a day usually, probably inking and or coloring now that my inking is pretty close to where I want it. Probably 4 to 10 hours a day. So it's become a bit of an obsession, but it's paid off. I found the Comic Book Yeti Discord through Blue Sky probably about a year ago now at this point, where I met Chris and I met Byron and all the others. One of the guys on the Discord, Gerald, has joked that it's not so much the Comic Book Yeti Discord anymore. It's the Travis James Inks the World, because of how many pages I'm posting constantly. So it just blew up into a full-blown obsession at this point, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's working for you, right?
I mean, I think so.
I mean, it looks like it, that's for sure. I mean, there's nothing cooler than stopping by your page and just checking out the pages you're inking. So, but what specifically drew you to inking versus colors or anything else?
One of the things I started doing when I really started doing the physical inks was I would stop and I'd be like, fuck, that looks cool. And I would take a photo with my phone. And just seeing the progression of the ink, that just deep black silky ink filling up the page and covering up the blue line, it's very, very rewarding. Right? It's one of those few things where you really can see the progress when you're working on a page, because it's either inked and it's permanent and there's no getting rid of it, or it's not. Right? Sure, you can go back and do touch-ups with your gel pens and Posca and acrylics and whatever else, but it's either ink or it's not. And you can really see it fill up. And also there's something very, very satisfying of when you've got large sections of black to fill, just filling that in with a brush.
I think it's pretty sure that's
it's the tactile of like the brush itself, and just watching it fill is just addictive.
Pretty therapeutic, I'm sure.
Oh, very.
What's up, Kev? Glad you stopped by tonight, man. But so did you start traditionally or digitally, or I know you just
So,
mentioned briefly, but how did you actually get started with inking?
so in high school, I was doing pencils myself and trying to replicate all the different artists. And then when I learned more about how comics were made, back then through whatever book I was able to get at the local library,
Mhm.
um, then I started picking up. I think they were just the Sharpie like fine liners that I
Okay.
found back then, and I was trying to do it with that. I'd read that a lot of it was done with brush, and so I was trying to ink some of my stuff that I was doing back then with really, really crappy brushes and black
Yeah.
acrylic ink, which is definitely not the way to go. Um, so I'd done it then initially. When I got back into art 5 or 6 years ago, it was all on the iPad because I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not drawing enough to justify spending hundreds of dollars on supplies, and I've already got an iPad and an Apple Pencil. I'm just gonna mess around with it on there. And it was really that conversation at our local Comic Con, I guess a year and a half ago now, that made me just dive headfirst into the
Mhm.
physical inking.
No, that's really cool, dude. I'm always happy when people like come back to something later in life and realize like, oh, the passion is still there, and I'm actually quite good at it still. So it's satisfying to hear when people come back around to fulfilling a dream, or a dream
Yeah.
that they didn't know they had. So for
Or one that they
people,
thought was dead.
exactly. I mean, I'm one of those where when I picked up podcasting, I didn't really know how much I was going to enjoy it or love it. And I went through several variations of this before I got to where I'm at today. And now it's like nothing's better than talking to indie creators. And that's just how it is now. I'm like, some of the my best friends now are creators and writers, and it's always cool when I see their projects get fulfilled on Kickstarter or just in general. So for me, it's satisfying to play a small piece in the big circle of life of what a comic book is.
Yeah. I think the wildest thing for me is, now I'm old, so I've got Facebook, right?
I am still rocking on Facebook too.
Right. But on Facebook, it's got that people you may know, like the suggested friends list.
Oh yeah.
And the way it's built up gradually over the last year,
Mhm.
and then like the names that I see popping up on there, because like, hey, you've got a dozen friends in common. And it's like, I've seen Chris Claremont even pop up on there,
Yeah.
or Larry Hama on there. I mean, I've got freaking Ace Cantonato on my friends list, and Netho Diaz, who's
Mhm.
doing all the X-Men stuff right now. And I'm getting to see all this stuff that they're posting. And it's just like, oh man, imposter syndrome is real. But it's
Dude.
still really, really cool. Like the first time I saw Claremont pop up on there, and I'm like, I grew up reading his stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the X-Men writer, but right? I mean, and all the current X-Men writers have had the same, you know, reaction themselves when they first meet him,
Uh-huh.
or and it's just the cool thing too that I've discovered though is when you start talking to other comic book creators, they're also comic book nerds.
Mhm.
At the indie level, at the pro level, it doesn't matter. They're just comic book nerds. They love
Yep.
comic books. They love the characters. They love the heroes, and they will go down the deepest nerd rabbit hole talking about characters and storylines and timelines and multiverses and what ifs, and it's just fun.
It really is. And I remember when I was still doing New Comic Book Day, and so I was like, I would just post the stuff that I'm reading and kind of tag the artists and the writers and stuff like that. And it was wild because like everybody be like, "Hey, cool, thanks for reading." And it took when Rat City came out and Erica Schultz was the writer. She's still the writer on Rat City, but she's like, "Hey, I appreciate the shout out, but what about the guy who did the inks? What about the guy who did the colors? What about the person who did this?" And I was just like, I never thought about them. And she's like, if you're going to do this, do it the right way and give everybody the love who worked on that book. So it kind of opened up my perspective of the grander scheme of a comic book, because most people, they only care about who did the cover, who wrote it, who did the art. That's the big three, right? And but no, that kind of like opened my eyes wider. And then she was just at the local Comic-Con, and of course I had to get something signed by her. So I picked up one of her older indie books that she did, and I was just like, you're the reason why when I was doing this, that I started doing it this way versus the way I was doing it. And she's like, I faintly remember that. I was like, thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah,
but no, it was one of those like really cool full circle moments for me, because I'm like, she was the first female to write Spawn. And she was just really cool and humble and very down to earth, and would take the time to talk to everybody who stopped by her and seen her. So I just wish I would have brought Rat City with me, because she's out. So if you're going to see Erica Schultz at a sign-in and you want something specifically signed by her, bring it with you.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's actually probably the coolest thing I've got signed is not actually even a comic. Like, you'll get a kick out of this. So as I knock everything off the shelf, last year, well, I guess November, our local Comic Con was going on, and it's the first time I put together like an actual physical portfolio and went to show it to the artists to get feedback. And it was like Mike McCone, Ed Brisson, Scott Henderson, like great names. McCone was floored because I found one of his pages that got him hired for DC in the first place way back. He's like, I can't believe somebody actually inked this. This looks better than my pencils. He's like, the pencils are terrible, but you did a great job inking it. But that day I took something with me because I knew it was going to be a stressful morning showing off the portfolio. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go and get one of the guest signatures specifically, and curse my ADHD brain. It does the voice for Xavier on X-Men 97, and he played Red Skull in the like Natasha's death scene when they were getting the stone.
Yeah, I can see his face. I just can't remember his name.
Ross Marquand.
Yes.
So I took this. My wife got this for me last year for my birthday because why not? And so I got him to sign it. And my plan is anytime I'm at a con, I'm bringing it with me, and anybody that's ever worked on X-Men, I'm going to get to sign it. So he signed it right in the middle of the forehead.
That's dope.
With the "To me, my X-Men" quote on it. And then all the guys that were there that had worked on X-Men at some point or another, I got
that's really
signatures
cool
on it, and I'm just going to fill the whole thing up.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I don't know if we answered this question yet, but for people who may not understand or just don't know, what does an inker actually do in comics?
A lot more than people realize, which is kind of disappointing now because we don't see as many inkers working in the industry because some publishers have gotten away from it. Some artists prefer to do the inking themselves, and thus obviously get paid more. But you do lose a fair bit that way because inking is a thing in and of itself, and originally came out because of necessity. Because in the old days, the pencils wouldn't scan up properly, or however they did the copying of it to be able to put into the comics, to be able to add the color and everything too. So they had an artist go over it with a waterproof, light fast, archival India ink, usually with a quill or a brush, in order to darken up the original pencil marks and then add depth and shape and tone to everything with those deep, deep blacks. And then it would go off to the colorist. They would do their thing. Then it would go to the letterer, etc. The biggest thing with inking if I were to see somebody doing their own inks, or like somebody that's new to making comics and has questions about like, this is inked. No, it's not. And it's not being a jerk, and it's not a matter of style. Like some people say, will say, oh, that's just my inking style. There's certain fundamentals to it. The biggest one being line weights, right? All too often I'll see pages somebody's worked on and it's inked and it's just a thin black line around the whole thing, or a thick black line around the whole thing, and that's it. And there's no variance to the line. I was lucky enough to meet a professional inker that's been at it for 12 years professionally and 20 total. Inker out of BC, Jay Sobey, and he saw something I was working on, added me, and then started providing like regular, like constant feedback, like daily. Like every time I'm posting a piece, he's giving feedback. And the thing that he drilled into me was the line weights. Thinner outside line, where whatever the object is farther away from the camera, thicker as it gets closer, right? So, you're doing like a, deep foreshortening, somebody punching towards the camera, all around like the knuckles and the fist, it's gonna be thicker lines, and it's gonna thin out as it goes back. Where part of the body, branches out, gets bigger, it'll thicken out again. And it's the way he would say it's peaks and valleys, thick to thin and back again. And that's really like the big thing, is knowing where that needs to happen to create that. Because we're taking it's like Gary Martin says in his book on inking, and Klaus Janson said the exact same thing. We're taking 3D objects and trying to make them appear solid 3-dimensional objects, but we're using a flat 2-dimensional piece of paper to do it. Yeah. And that thickening and thinning of the line is what sort of tricks the eye into giving the page that feel of, hey, this is an actual like physical object out in the world somewhere.
So what's your process like when you receive penciled pages? You just received the raw art. What's your first steps into then inking those pages?
I'll take a look at it, and I'll usually have like a notepad or something, or if I'm working on it digitally, I'll just create a thing in OneNote. Just because I've got the drawing tablet in front of me, so it's easy to look at it side by side and take the notes. And then it doesn't matter if I'm on the PC or if I've got my laptop and I'm working off of that somewhere. What are they going for? I'll read the script. I'll read the script if I've got one. Sometimes I don't, because of the practice pages. I don't always obviously have access to the script. What is the tone that they're going for? If it's something that I've seen by that artist before, by that penciler before, I'll go and look at older things that they've done, just to see how was this approached? What were they happy with this? And then I'll usually, it depends on the page. Sometimes my neurodivergent brain gets the better of me, and I just start inking whatever looks cool first, and then I'm just bouncing around to different things on the page. A lot of times I'll start with the bigger detail first, and I'll do like the characters themselves. I'll usually start with like a thin outline. Doesn't matter if I'm using brush or I'm using quill. I'll start with a thin outline all the way around the character that I'm working on. I won't worry about the line weights on it at all. Just I want a thin, black line to give it the base shape and contain everything. And then I'll start working in outlining the areas that are just going to be black. Okay. I won't fill it in completely, because I still want to see, sometimes there's certain pencil marks underneath that I want to pay attention to, like feathering, hatching, cross hatching, stippling, whatever it might be, or eraser marks, because there are a lot of artists out there that use erasers, like thin erasers or the corner, to give like shape and highlights and everything. Yeah. And I'll start going through and I'll do all the thin line details after I've got the areas of black roughed out. Then I'll usually start working in the various bits of feathering. For those that don't know, feathering is where you're seeing multiple consecutive parallel lines of like thick to thin, right? Where you're seeing like a solid black transition to thinner, and it's helping show the shape and the curve. It's helping show the transition from darker lit areas to lighter lit areas. So you'll see, like, on actually, hold on, I've got a great page here that you can probably see. I just need to actually grab it off of Discord because I was sharing with some of the guys earlier on our work in progress thread. So I was just doing this one to practice. Actually, this works out because I can show you like transition, like piece by piece. So I started working just for the heck of it the other day on Jim Lee's Spider-Man and Superman crossover because I can't remember ever seeing Jim Lee draw Spider-Man, and I just thought it was cool. And also just the sheer level of detail that man is able to fit onto a page of pencils is mind-boggling some days. So I started inking it. I usually have a page or two that I'm working on while I'm just sitting on the couch watching TV with my wife. When I'm not necessarily like in the studio, I've just got like a lap board and I'm just messing around. So it's no matter what project I've got that I'm working on, it's my relaxing sort of me time when it comes to the inking. So I forgot I downloaded them on the desktop and I needed to download them on the laptop, but where can I? Oh, image files. Here we go. Did not save them where they were supposed to save them because, of course, technology fails me. This is why I work with a pen and ink instead of everything digital, guys. Because otherwise, my brain will short circuit faster than Johnny 5 in a rainstorm. Again, showing my age with that one.
Oh no, that's a classic. I think everybody's seen that one. And if they haven't, then they need to go back and reevaluate stuff and then watch it.
Okay. Here we go. Right. So I shared there we go. So this is Jim Lee's work. Obviously, he has Scott Williams do his inks because Scott Williams is insane, like insanely good. Like that's just goals, man. The amount of times I've just poured over Scott Williams pages to try and figure out how he did something or got a certain type of effect and tried to replicate it. I mean, there's a reason Jim Lee's been using him for what, close to 20 years? More?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe more actually.
Right.
That might go back to his work on Spawn actually. Or in Image.
Probably. Yeah, probably. So I mean, this was all done with a brush. It's not done yet. You'll notice I haven't really touched the line weights around the body at all, but I've got the outline there. I've got some of the blacks filled and that feathering, those thin lines. Like if you look at Soup's shoulders and biceps, right? It's those thin lines that show that transition. They're thicker to thinner. It's harder to see because it's so small because the detail is so tight on these pages. But it's thicker to thinner, and it just gives that shape and that transition to it, and it just makes it seem like a physical 3D object. And it's when you're asking like why inking over everything else, it's these transitions going from just a page of nothing but pencils to filling everything up. It's just incredibly satisfying to just watch that fill up.
Dude, that's so cool though. I'm glad to see that book is doing very well. I'm not personally a big fan of either character. I like Spider-Man, but I prefer the alternate versions of him, like
Hobby and Miles.
Yeah. So
I get it.
Maybe I read so much of it as a younger guy. It's probably the reason why I'm not a bigger fan of it as I am, or as I was when I was younger. And Superman the same way. Like to me, the death of Superman to me was the death of Superman. Even though he didn't stay dead, which why would he? He's still $1 billion franchise in of himself. But yeah, to me, the death of Superman, he died.
Can we just be thankful that the death of Superman was also the start of the death of the super mullet?
This is a true story. Very true. Yes. but so how much of your own style do you kind of interject into these pieces versus staying true to what the penciler intended? Do you ever go back to the penciler and say, hey, were you trying this here? But if I do this here, it would give it more depth or more tone or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the artist that you're working with. Obviously, certain artists, you just want to stick as close to it as possible because it's a masterpiece and you don't want to.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right. Like this piece that I just shared, like it's Jim Lee, like Jim Lee has a recognizable style. If you're inking Jim Lee, it's got to look like Jim Lee's style. But other artists, there's room to play. Like I loved working on, or I'm still working on Inheritance with Brendan Albetsky, who's the penciler on that project. It was really fun to work on with him on it, and it's kind of the same thing that was working with Chris on AHA, is because their styles of pencils are so different from everything that I practice on typically, that I get to play around more and do a little bit with it, and just explore a little bit what I do with it. Brendan has a more animated cartoon, very vibrant. His style of work would not be amiss on like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Chris, his style, and I've told him this too before when we were doing like a little side project just for fun a while back. I'm like, I can see you doing like a weekly Saturday morning comic strip in this style.
Yeah.
Right. It's what my brain sees when I see his style of doing things. So taking what I know of inking and all the practice that I've done and getting to apply it to those styles and be like, how do I keep it to this style, work in what makes it proper, but still play with it a little bit. And it's actually pretty cool. And sometimes you're really lucky and you just get great feedback. A little while back, Scott Eaton started following me over on Instagram because he saw, I think it was a Thanos piece that I did up. Because originally I was going to get the Thanos piece signed by Jim Starlin because he was supposed to be here as a guest at the same con that I got the Magneto helmet signed at, but he was sick that weekend and didn't end up making it. But Eaton saw me working on it. We started talking, and he actually hooked me up with an entire issue of pencils of X-Men Legends number 12 from 2022 that he did with Chris Claremont. And so I've been working my way through inking the entire issue, and I'll be working my way through coloring the entire issue once it's done. But the best part is I've been getting direct feedback from Scott on every page.
That's really cool.
He's provided like a couple of things that he wanted me to like fix, mainly Kitty's hair on a couple of the pages.
Yeah.
He just wanted it more natural and flowy. But everything else is like, you have a really nice, natural, brushy style to it. You're just tight enough to the pencils. And tight means like line for line. When artists are talking about how tight you are to the pencils, it's line for line. If they want you to be more loose, you're allowed to play, right? And he's from the way he's said it to me is he likes how I'm like just sort of like on that borderline of not too tight, not too loose, and just expression. Particularly, he said it was in the faces of the characters that he liked, where I was being a little bit more free with it, giving them a little bit more expression. So it really depends on the artist. I know in the old days what they would do is they would take a really experienced penciler and give them a less experienced inker and tell them to stay tighter to the pencils to get them used to how it's supposed to look. Likewise, a newer penciler, they would pair with an experienced inker. And so you get that hybridization of the styles between the inker and the penciler that would really change things up. Like in the old days, if you came across an issue and you're like, oh, Klaus Jansson's inking this issue, this is going to be great. And it, depending on who it was that he was working with, right? Like I'm working my way through reading everything Daredevil from beginning to end. And I'm about 150 some issues in. So I'm like maybe 10 or 15 issues from like where Frank Miller first started doing Deadpool or Daredevil. And it's like seeing, because I seen in some of the previous issues, Gene Colan with Klaus Janson doing the inks, and then you see Frank Miller with Klaus Janson doing the inks, and you get the similarities that are brought in, and you can tell like the way Janson does his light and his shadows and his transitions, but the way Miller does Daredevil versus the way Gene Colan did Daredevil, very, very different.
Yeah.
Right. And just getting that, seeing the guest inker come in on an issue, even for a couple of pages, like when you actually know what you're looking for and you're not just speeding through the pages, it's really cool. Some of the differences that you can see in the artwork, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of sad about more modern comics, is because you don't see a lot of those pairings anymore. You don't get to see those cool like takes and mashups and like things that made certain issues really, really special beyond just the story, beyond just the pencils. Like you would hit that just perfect combination, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of wild too. And for anybody out there that has, or if your dad collected comics or whoever collected comics, go and look at some of the consecutive issues of things, and you'll start to notice like faces or hair or other features of characters may transition and look a little different from issue to issue, or even some cases page to page, because of that right there. And that's really cool that you brought that up, because I used to always wondered myself until, it wasn't until like a couple of years ago when I got big back into comic books that I started, you get into things and you kind of like throw yourself into it, and you start learning things. And that's when I finally was always like, I Googled like, why did, books from one book to another book or one page to another page, why did certain characters look different? And it gave me the full breakout of, it could have been this or this and this. And one of the biggest ones, like the inker could have changed, or they had a guest inker, or it could have been anything like that. So for me, it was kind of like this huge real learning curve, just going back and asking those questions that I always wondered about when I was a kid reading comic books, but I didn't have the internet to tell me the answers, Yeah.
I mean, when I was still, I'm going to say, learning to ink in the first place, I was still doing everything on the iPad before my little digital portfolio at the time had gotten torn apart. I came across the one page that I was inking for practice, and I noticed there was something really, really wrong on the page. And it was just like a cover or a commission that somebody done, and it was like Green Arrow, Black Canary on the rooftop, and GA's got his bow drawn, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is wrong. The way he's holding the bow is wrong. Because rather than like, if my phone is the bow, where you've got it and it's in line with your knuckles, he was holding it kind of like this on a weird angle. And actually, no, it's more like this. Right. So it's like pointed away, but not in a way that's like you're pointing it away for safety or anything. It was more just like, that is the wrong grip. And the other thing I noticed is the bow was drawn, but the limbs weren't bent, and they were definitely not bent at the right angle. I mean, I grew up doing archery in school, and I used to go to an archery range locally here a couple times a week. I know what a bow is supposed to look like when it's drawn. Right? It's part of what got me into reading Green Arrow and watching the Stephen Amell series in the first place. And so I said to Jerry the one day, I'm like, hey, I got a question for you that I don't know the answer to, and I can't find the answer to it. When you're inking a page, because you've probably heard these conversations before, who fixes it? When there's like a glaring error like that, who fixes it? Or do they just ink it as is and let it go? He's like, well, it depends. Sometimes if there's time, if there's not a huge deadline, it'll go back to the penciler, and the editor will be like, fix it. You're better than this. And other times, if it's a deadline, it's up to the inker to fix, which is why the inker has to be able to pencil as well. Even if they're not their main focus, and maybe they're like 70% or 80% as good as the somebody who pencils full time, they got to be able to go back and fix things like that. So I'm like, all right. So I went and I fixed the angle of the bow. I fixed where the arrow was actually knocked to it. I fixed the bowstring on it.
Yeah.
And for where I was at inking at the time, it looked all right. But it's that's one of the other things, and that's why they used to do the pairings with the more experienced inker with a novice penciler, and vice versa. Is it acted as like a second sort of fail safe to make sure that things don't get missed and there aren't as many errors. Whereas now, because that isn't there, you're seeing creep into a lot of different pieces. And this isn't any one particular publisher. This is all around in comic books in general. When you've got one artist doing everything, you do see a lot more tangents pop in. You do see a lot more like deadlines or lines where it extends way past where it's supposed to. Things like that would have gotten caught. But because everything is rush, let's get the pages out as quick as we can, you lose a little bit of the quality. Right? I mean, it's not to say that there's tons of artists out there that do great work doing the pencils and inks themselves and the colors themselves too. But by having the specializations, right? It's like D&D. A bard isn't going to be as good a fighter as a fighter, or as good of a rogue as a rogue, or as good of a healer as a cleric.
Yeah.
Sure, they can do everything. But if you need a healer, you're preferring to have a cleric.
Yeah.
If you need somebody to get punched in the face for you so the rest of the team can run away, you want that fighter.
No, and it's wild because the more you read comics, the more you look at the pages, the art, you start to notice stains.
Like coffee stains and whatnot.
Yeah, coffee stains. You start to notice like what's wrong with this gun? And you sit there and you stare at the gun for 10, maybe 12, 15 minutes, and you're like, what the hell was that artist or that inker or whoever who let that gun slide through? Because notice
he was eating a hot dog and drip mustard on the page.
Yeah, the injection port is like not in the right spot, or the way the bullet left the muzzle, like just weird things like that. You notice like either they've never seen or held or felt a gun fire to know that's how it's supposed to look, or they were just didn't care. Like, I gotta get this done.
Like the armor on that Angelina Jolie movie, Salt, that put the EOTech 552 on the rifle backwards.
Yes. Movies are, it's not just movies, it's comic books as well. And it's not just comic books, it's movies, it's TV shows. You start to notice weird little things like that, and they will drive you bonkers.
There is one.
Just like the way they were carving bullets in that movie. Just like, no, just stop, please.
There is one thing in comics that has driven me nuts for the longest time. And when I first started talking to Scott Eaton, I'm like, thank you for being one of the few that actually does this properly. Swords. I love Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is one of my favorites.
Same.
It's a whole idea of the acrobat, swordsman, obsessed with L-frame movies, right? Like, freaking love it. But the amount of times that he's supposed to be using a saber or a rapier, it's a one-handed sword where the pommel is like right at the base of your palm for the balance of the sword. Meanwhile, I'm seeing guys draw Nightcrawler with that much sword hilt sticking out of the bottom of his hand.
Yeah, it's like
he drives me
a fencing sword.
He does. Yeah, he uses primarily sabers and rapiers, right? Yeah, flowy, precise,
almost like a sword you could
blades.
Dance with.
Absolutely.
For our Game of Thrones people, pencil,
needle,
or needle. Yes, needle. Thank you. That's what he would use. We got Mid's ink in the comments with the D&D mentioned. If that's all it takes to get you here, dude, I'll throw out D&D comments all the time. Y'all stay tuned. We're gonna get Mids back on before you know it. So, let's jump into a little bit of Pete's Meat, because that's why you're here. But I did want to give some education on what an inker is. So I cannot thank you enough for bringing that. And this, honestly, you're the first inker I've really got to talk to on the show. And that's really cool. Outside of Mids was just on the show, so I don't want to discount him because he was really fun to talk to, even though he sounded like he was coming off a bender and he was all hoarse. And yeah, he's another Canadian too. There's a lot of Canadians in this book. I'm just realizing.
If he's from Toronto, that doesn't count.
Him and Duke are both from Toronto.
They complain about winter. I'm like, you have no idea. For those who don't know where Winnipeg is, if you were to look at a map of Canada and imagine where to draw a belly button for Canada, that's where Winnipeg is. We had 2 weeks in February this year, just to give you an idea, 2 weeks straight, where we were colder than Antarctica and the surface temperature of Mars. In Fahrenheit, we were at -58 with the wind chill for 2 weeks straight.
And that's why Chris Jericho moved to Florida.
I saw him get his butt kicked at a bar once.
You know, what? You can't really follow that one up. Come on, Chris Jericho, do better.
It's like 20 years ago.
Oh, he was a young
Yeah.
pup back then. Come on. But I've asked everybody this. So how did you yourself get involved with AHA? I know others were like they applied for it and just waited for the phone call. But how did you become a part
Wait, they
of
got
AHA?
a phone call?
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
they got
stern words with the Chris's. I didn't get a phone call. I got an email message, maybe a thing on Discord. I didn't get a phone call. Where's my phone call, guys?
they got Zoom calls, man. They got Zoom calls.
Oh,
You didn't get a Zoom call?
Okay. No, well, there was the Zoom call when they announced it, but it's not
okay.
getting a call from a director saying, "Hey, you got the part." I mean,
Okay, no.
When
I
you said
meant
a
the
call,
Zoom
that's
call.
what I was thinking. Like, oh, that's awesome.
No, I think they all got emails with the Zoom link, and if you didn't click the Zoom link within the time frame, I think you got discarded and they went to the next one.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. No, I first saw them, I guess this would have been sometime late last year when they first did the post about it, deciding that they were going to go for it on the Comic Book Yeti Discord. And I'm like, you know what? It's horror and it's not my usual thing. I don't really read horror. I don't really watch horror movies because the characters in horror movies annoy me too much because they do too many stupid things. First episode of Walking Dead. Rick is a moron. You were in the military. You know.
The comic book, it was worse.
You know, in an M1A1 Abrams, there is at least one M4 for every single crew member, along with, 2-3 spare mags of ammunition, plus rations, supplies. The dude is a sheriff in the U.S. in Georgia. He's gonna know what's in there. Instead, he just tries to escape the tank and run away with just a Beretta M9. I mean, come on, Rick, do better. But no, horror is not normally my thing. But I had been working my way through, just for practice, because that's all I constantly do. I've been working my way through inking, slowly but surely, all 4 issues of Marcelo Ferreira's 4-issue run on Predator vs. Spider-Man.
Ooh, that was a good one. That was so good.
It was. And I kept saying to myself while I'm going through these pages, these are the goriest Spider-Man pages I have ever seen.
Yes.
Like, I have never seen this level of blood and not even in Carnage issues was there this much blood.
I know. It was
which is saying a lot. And just like these scenes of the Predator, I mean, if you go on my Instagram or my TikTok, you'll see the ones where it's like the Predator stretching a guy's face off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That definitely fits the horror. I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna try.
There's a reason why that I was like, because when I got issue 1 and I read it, I'm like, why was this not polybag?
Yeah.
Which, because Marvel has their polybag stuff, like they had the Daredevil polybag recently, which was written by Erica Schultz as well. But I was like, holy hell! I'm like, the first kill that Predator had, I'm like, why is it this polybag? Why is it this
right?
What is it they call it? The red lines or red band? Like
that one, I think it's page 3 where you see the 3 bodies hanging tied up together upside down and they've been completely flayed and there's just a pool of blood on the ground underneath them. It's
there's still just the blood is still just coming out of them too. You see the blood dripping down into just the big puddles. I was like, I love the throwback, because that's a throwback to the movie. But it was like, holy hell.
And just the way Ferrero was able to capture the raw tissue without the skin with his pencils.
The meat sickles, man.
Yeah. And they were fun to ink. I mean, they're still I'm not even done the first issue yet because I think it's a 30-page issue. So I think
It is. Yeah, the first one. I think I'm at 30-pager.
I think I'm at like page 15 or so.
I think they're because the other issues I think were like 22, if I'm not mistaken.
They were shorter, and actually, I think it was Chris with a K that actually found all 4 issues worth of pencils for me.
But yeah, no, that was my favorite one. The follow-ups after that, I just didn't care for, because
the Wolverine one was good, but I'm biased because I'm Canadian. So
no, I do have the Wolverine one, and I got the Spider-Man one, but it was after the Spider-Man one, which I think after that was like was it Justice League? Not Justice League. I'm sorry.
I think there was like an Avengers one. I think there's a Black Panther one.
The Avenger ones. Yeah, it was the Avengers one. I just couldn't. I got the first issue, and I was like, no, I think they expended all their creative resources in Wolverine and Spider-Man, especially the Spider-Man. I thought the Spider-Man was the better of the two.
Oh yeah, and bringing in Kraven for it, like of course Kraven's gonna be like, wait, there's somebody hunting others. Yes. I'm hunting.
I'm hunting that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Kraven stole that book. I'm not even gonna lie. Kraven stole it.
He did.
Like that became a Kraven comic book. I don't care what anybody says, because the way he was done in that book was amazing.
Yeah,
it's like it's not what you expect either. I'm not going to give any spoilers. Please go buy this book.
Read it. Go read it. Find a copy. Read it. It's
digital. I'm
not normally big on crossovers, but man, they did good with that one. And go pick up the Wolverine one. I do not remember who did the writing or the art for it, and I'm ashamed to say that. But the Wolverine one was done really, really well, because it's basically Wolverine starting to remember that this damn thing has been hunting him for the last 200 years, and he keeps running into it over and over and over again. And it's very, very well done.
Yep.
But it was the flayed skin, the one where the predator's reaching in, grabbing the guy's face and peeling the skin off, and you just see like the exposed eyes and the muscles around the eyes. It was that page really that I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I can totally.
And that was a Spider-Man comic book for anybody.
In a Spider-Man comic.
If they make it here, and it's Peter Parker, all right. And where they fucked up is he kidnapped Mary Jane, and the show is over.
Actually, there is one other thing in it that drove me nuts in that issue, and it's one of those small things that you only pick up if you're like really looking into the art. There's one scene where Pete is masquerading as a forensics tech that's come in to like do a crime scene, and he's there with the detective doesn't realize that he's Spider-Man, and he's taking pictures with like an iPhone 16, and you can tell what it is because of the camera.
Yeah.
On it. I'm like, there is no effing way that Peter Parker could afford that phone.
I didn't even catch that. You're right, though.
But it's like, no, he dumpster dives for stuff. I mean, even when he was running Parker Industries, he was still strapped for cash all the time.
Yeah. No, that's a good catch, dude. I like that one.
but yeah, doing those pages made me think, like, you know what, I can totally do something for horror. And I tossed my name into the ring and filled out the form like everybody else did. And I was expecting to get like, if I got picked, to do some inking, some colors. And then there's that first Zoom call, and then it's Chris and everybody else. And they're like, and Travis is doing one of the covers. I'm like, what?
I am?
Like, I was not expecting that in the slightest. Yeah. And then my brain went, oh, frack, what the hell am I going to do? And then I'm just like, screw it. I'm going to take some inspiration from those Predator pages, and going to take the other inspiration from being a big history nerd, and I'm going to like do a Viking Blood Eagle in process.
No, I'm actually bringing up the cover because it is.
I kept working on it on the couch, and my wife kept looking over and seeing it. And she's like, that is so gross. That's really disturbing.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so if anybody's been wondering why I've been sharing this so much when I'm talking about hey, this is one of the 2 covers that I have. I haven't got the 3rd cover to share with y'all. So I've just been sharing this one and the one with the knight on it. And
I really like that one.
I do too.
I mean, they're all good, but I mean, of course, I drew this one. Of course, it's my favorite. Even though I can't look at it all that often because it's so gross, even to me.
Dude, this has been like, and how I do my clips is I include the covers from the book that leads into the actual clip, and then from the clip, what it goes into my stuff. But this has been one of those where I'm just like, this is so gnarly. Like, even the hands kind of almost like have that Predator-esque fingers on them. So I was just like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I was going for that kind of like desiccated, kind of like zombie necromancer kind of hand with the chipped yellowed nails and everything. Thanks, Megs. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I don't do horror normally, and so I just like, all right, I'm gonna go for it.
You went for it and you dove right in on that one, buddy.
Yeah, the probably the most tedious part was the vertebra.
Mm.
And I'm very, very glad that when I pencil, I tend to do it digitally rather than I do. It's weird. I do the pencils digitally when I'm penciling something, but I do the inks physically because I just enjoy the physical process of inking. But just like pulling up like one of those high school skeleton, dummies that they got hanging in the classroom and like zooming in on the vertebra and drawing the first few. I'm like, okay, well, there's 6 of them that are this type and they're slightly different shapes. So I'll draw the one, copy, paste, distort, play around with it. Like if you watch the time lapse of the penciling process on my socials, like you can see it like pop, 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 pop.
Go
like
watch it because it was really cool. That was one of the ones I watched because I was like, I gotta see it. It's so cool.
It's neat too because if you watch it, the very first thing that you see is a physical set of rough pencils that I took a photo of, then imported the image, and then I started working the pencils off of that. So I do this like weird sandwiching where I start physical pencils for like really, really roughs, scan it in, start the digital. Once that's done, convert it to blue line, print it out, do the physical inks, scan it in again, and then start playing around with the colors. So
I don't think people realize how much work people put into that because that is a lot of work for one cover. And there's people who do it multiple times for one cover.
Yep. Some covers will take an entire month for an artist to do at like the pro level. And there's a reason, like they're doing that on top of all their other projects and whatnot. And sure, they might be, making like $600-700 or whatever it is for that one cover, but they're putting time into it. And like when you're working on something like that and you're doing the inks and the pencils and I think this is and the colors, and I think this is why it just floors me when an artist is able to do all 3 on their entire own book from start to finish, plus the writing and the lettering, and they do everything themselves. It's just the sheer amount of time that it takes, but also knowing how I am, knowing how other creatives are, when you find that like one piece of something that you're working on and you obsess over that one part and wanting to get that one part just right, the amount of times you'll go back and redo it or do it a different way, or you'll print it back out and ink it a completely different way. And then when you scan it, you might take this arm and this character that you ink this way, and you'll cut it out of your scanned inks and plop it down on top of your other page of inks that you liked the way this building looked and the way this car looked, and you'll like
just start
collage them together.
Them.
Yeah. And it floors me that some guys can just knock out like I don't know how they do it, and I think that's also part of the reason that I've focused on inking is just because I can just focus on the one thing.
Yeah. So now that he said that, I want y'all to think about this. He takes somebody like Peach Momoko, who is one of the hottest artists out there right now. Like she does so much. At one point, she was producing covers and her own comic book with Star Wars Visions, and she was also working on her own Demon Days behind the scenes for Marvel as well, while doing all that other stuff. And she was cranking them all out almost all consecutively in the same time frames. And she did Visions and Demon Days, I think, all on her own. Like those were her books, her stories, her art, her everything, her colors. She did it all.
Like crazy work ethic. Like I just, even when I'm just like drilling down, I can't imagine. And that's
so
with
Star Wars
ADHD medication.
Star Wars Visions had no words. The story told the art and everything told the entire story on its own, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So when we say words just advance the art of the story, that is what we're referring to. The art should be able to stand alone and tell a story in the words just advance that story.
Add more
Comic books
detail,
are so
add
cool.
more nuance, add more,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comic books
absolutely.
are so cool. I love comic books that way, man. But so you did a cover and you also contributed to Pete's Meats.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Pete's Meats? No spoilers or anything, but what can you tell us about it?
Well,
Other
like I
than
said,
the title should probably give some of it away.
well, yes, there is Pete. There is meat involved. Not like that. Get your mind out of the gutter, children. A surprise twist ending that you really won't see coming. And yeah, it's just a fun little story, and it's it's not. How do I put this? It's sure, there's similar stories in the past, some quite classic ones, but I mean sometimes the classics are classics for a reason, right? There's a reason.
There might be a whole season of The Walking Dead dedicated to almost this exact subject.
Probably, but I mean, look, how many times has the Seven Samurai been replicated to horrible westerns?
True, very true.
Right. So I mean, it's different take on a classic sort of trope, but it was written well. There's some great direction in the script for what he wanted Chris to actually pencil in, and Chris's pencils, like I said, his style very well suits a shorter story, and it would as a like a weekly comic strip, as I said. So the fun for me was the challenge of, again, taking what I do with how I typically approach inking and applying it to his work. How did I want to keep to his style but still play around a little bit? And there was a few suggestions here and there with a couple of panels. I think it was like panel 1 even was just like, move this here, tweak this here. Is it okay if I do this? And he's like, yeah, man, just go nuts. And I'm fairly certain that part of the reason that they selected me to do anything on the entire thing was just the subliminal messaging of seeing me constantly posting inking pages on the Yeti Discord over and over
Dude,
and
it
over
works.
again.
Even on your Instagram, it works, man.
Yeah, I think it's just the seeing it constantly was what made. I think it was one of the Chris's, because I think I asked them, and I can't remember which one of them I asked. I might have asked both of them, and they said something very similar to something Doug said when we were on another podcast for Inheritance a couple months back, and it was something about just seeing how much I'm into the comics and talking about the characters and lore and how much I'm constantly working on pages. It drove them to want to make more, and it's actually really cool, like, hearing that, like, hey, I don't even have anything published to my name yet. I mean, Doug had 7, 8 successful Kickstarters that he worked on himself, plus whatever else he's done. I mean, Chris is all over his socials and everything, and he's fairly well known in the indie comics. And I hadn't had a single damn page. Well, no, sorry, that's not true. I had 2 prints for GVS, and then 1 page for a 1-page story that I did last year. But really, like,
Yeah,
I've got nothing out there with my name on it, really. So to be told that, like, what I'm just doing as it is without being paid to do it is making them want to make more. That felt really cool to be, brought in and included because of that. Because sure, yeah, I mean, obviously I want my work to speak for itself and, make people want to work with me, but being told that just the amount of work that I'm doing and the enthusiasm for what I'm doing, making it's really, really cool to actually hear that. So it feels good.
no, I get it, man. And you're number 4 in the AHA anthology that I have been doing, and there's 3 more after you.
You're gonna get sick of us.
No, dude, this has been a lot of fun for me, honestly. I can't wait to. So it's funny because I can't wait to get to the end, but only so I can go back into my YouTube studio and make a giant ass playlist and just call it AHA. And I'm going to leave it at that, as just AHA.
Nice.
And that's just going to be the playlist. And people are like, what's AHA? And they click, and it's us talking about this fantastic horror comic book that CHK is doing, you know? So that's going to be fun for me to do on that side of it because I'm waiting. I'm like, all right, as soon as we're done, like this moment I upload that last video, everything's going into its own playlist on there, and it's just going to say, aha.
That's cool.
No rhyme or reasons, no like description, just aha. And just leave it at that and let people find it on their own.
Maybe do like a really faint overlay of that cracked open spine behind it.
I just seen your chat. No, dude, yeah. No, I get that. I love her work. I love the way she does it, but that's neither here nor there. But so what kind of tone or horror style does Pete's Meat kind of lean into?
Isolation. You know, you're on your own, trying to make it through. You know, doing what you can to survive, and you know, sometimes it's not what you expect, and it's not necessarily enough.
Yeah, no. And dude, every single story I've gotten to talk about has been like just like my next favorite one in the book, right? So I'm like, now I'm like, I want to like fast forward to get to the end of this Kickstarter so I can actually receive the book, because that's going to be a really fun episode of What's in the Box for me, because I'm actually going to get to open the box, record the episode, and then actually sit down and finally read all the stories together. Because so far I've read the synopses of all the stories, and I'm just like, I want to get my hands on
get
it.
Yeah.
So did you change your ink type for like this genre of story versus like if you're inking a superhero or something like that? How's the difference there between a horror versus like one of your other works?
The same base principles are there. Line weight, again, being the most important thing. The closer something is to the camera, the thicker it should be. And I say camera, it's a comic, yes, but if you view things in the idea of making a film or a TV show, it helps, right? So making sure that was there, doing what I could to play with the lighting and add a little bit of texture to a few things. You know, making the mechanical pieces look sterile and mechanical, making the dirt feel like gritty and dirty, but still sticking to Chris's style. The organic components, making them feel
organic,
squishy, slimy, curvy, you know, smooth, you know, gross, whatever. Like, does a tooth look like a tooth? Does a hand look like a hand? Does a face look like a face? There's little things that you don't really put a lot of thought into, and you still want to try and do it, even if it's not like a realistic style or proportions. You still want it to feel like the thing it's supposed to feel like, stylized or not, right? And I think it was just approaching it that way. I mean, the cover I inked physically, the Pete's Meat I did the inks digitally, mainly just so that I could get the pages done as quick as possible for Chris to be able to start, because Chris did the colors himself. So he did the pencils and he did the colors, but getting it to him so he could get the colors done and get the pencils, or not the pencil, the letters in there and done, just speeding up the process. And well, that and being able to finish it quickly enough that I could take the time on the cover. Right? Because I knew, like, my penciling is admittedly slow because I'm constantly tweaking it and changing it and shifting things around until I'm, you know, happy with it. And even then, when I'm happy with it, I'm never completely happy with it. I knew that was going to take me longer, so you know, tackle the inks digitally using Clip Studio on the drawing tablet. And then just got it off to Chris to see what he would do with it, playing around with the colors.
So was there a specific panel or maybe a moment that you enjoyed a little bit more in that when you were inking that one?
Probably the last.
The way you're laughing, I'm guessing yes.
Probably the last panel, because I'm reading the script and I'm like, okay, well, that's a something. You know, when I see the pages, I'm sure I'll know what it is. And I saw the page, like I got to the page, I'm like, that is not at all what I thought it was. Is this an actual thing? And then I went and Googled it, and then I fell down a rabbit hole learning about this thing and what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's why it looks familiar. It looks like this, and this was based off of this thing. And I'm being very, very obtuse with this so that I'm
No,
not giving
please.
away
I don't want to.
the ending.
I don't want to have to mark a spoiler on it like I had to do with Duke, because we got into a rabbit hole on the story and we ended up saying too much, and I was like, shit. I'm like, all right, I gotta mark this a spoiler. So
Yeah.
shout out to Chris and Chris. My bad. I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole as deep as I did with Duke and Mids, but we all survived it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, just like, is this an actual thing? And then falling down that rabbit hole, that was probably the one for me. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make it. I'm sure it looks like that. This is really a thing. Where is that from? Yeah. So
No,
that happens with me pretty often, though.
I'll
I'll like see like a little bit about something and just immediately dive down a Google rabbit hole and like Wikipedia and whatever else learning about it. So
yes, like I'm so guilty of that, and I hate myself for it sometimes. But let's talk about your cover. I know we had spoke a little bit about it, but how did that process vary from you normally do ink work and that kind of stuff? How did the like actually contribute in the whole cover versus just ink in a page? How was that?
I have been working a lot more over the last little while. Rather than just doing inks, I've been doing a lot more pencils. I actually did another cover for a local comic publisher here in Canada called GY6. They've got their issue number 1 coming out of a new thing that's actually going to be carried locally at a couple of the comic stores here. Plus, they're going to have it at Comic Con. So I did the full I actually inked that one twice. I did a digital version and a physical version, so that they've got like an artist edition one to do for like a variant cover kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I specifically inked that one in a more traditional manga style rather than, because I wanted to like go towards their source material that they were basing things off of, right? So I've been doing a lot more pencils over the last little bit, trying to just improve what I do, because knowing more about the pencils and how the pencils are done and what the marks on the page mean to an inker and how they're going to interpret the page to play with the lighting and the color and everything, it helps. Like knowing what the others are going to be doing with your work definitely helps. So it was a great exercise for that, knowing how I wanted it to look, knowing what the inspiration was in my head behind the cover, between the Predator and between the Viking Blood Eagle and whatnot, and how I wanted it to look gory enough. Just playing like, how is it going to look? How is that shredded flesh going to look? What kind of position is the body going to be in? So before I even put pencil to paper for the first roughs, I was poking into like historical Viking blood eagles. Was this actually a thing? Did this actually happen? Various depictions of it, right? I mean, there's that famous scene from the Vikings series where they blood eagle King Ela, and they've got him hanging there. Plus, there's a few woodcuts kicking around from old manuscripts from when the Saxons were fighting the Danes as they were coming into England after Lindisfarne, and what they saw of the culture and how they were depicting them in their written works. So there's a few like the woodcuts, and sketches and whatnot like that floating around, and just thinking like, okay, bone structure, where are the shoulders going to be? How is the body going to be suspended? What angle do I want to approach this from? Do I want to do just like straight on from the back? Do I want like an over the shoulder? Do I want like you're looking at it from like the point of view of the person actually doing it, which is what I ended up going with. And just trying to figure out like the rough overall layout. And then I did like the really, really rough pencils that you see in the time lapse. Imported it into I took a photo of it, imported it into the Clip Studio, and just started playing with it and poking at it. And like you watch the time lapse and you see multiple iterations where I'm changing from a blue pencil to a red pencil and back and forth and
Yeah.
popping things in at certain like I'm happy with this part, I'm happy with this part, and what I wanted to stay and use as reference for something else, I would have one color and then work in the other color, and constantly be shifting everything back and forth until it got to the point where like, okay, yeah, let's print this and then play with the ink. So
yeah. Now, so, oh, lost my place. Hang on. Stand by. Where was I? Oh, yeah. We were talking about the cover. Whew. I scrolled up too far and I lost the whole thing. So what makes what do you think makes a cover grab attention in today's very crowded indie market?
Ooh, that's a good question. See, that's odd for me because, and admittedly, I don't read a lot of indie comics because I'm just getting into it. Now, it's not that I don't want to read them. It's, I think with me, it's the same. If it's something that's going to be a longer series, I'm going to get into it. Right? Like, now that there's a few issues of Gerald von Stoddard's Immortal Coil, I grabbed that with his last campaign and made sure to grab like issues 1 and 2 because I want to start like going through it and really diving into it because I've seen Gerald's work and his pencils are friggin' amazing, man. And I've gotten to do a couple of pieces for like prints for him. Like I did the one variant cover for him for 1,000 Cuts.
Okay.
And that was like one of the first pieces I did on somebody else's work that actually ended up out there as a result of the artists themselves sharing it. Even when I'm like reading books, like I just finished reading through Paul J. Bennett's series, Victory of the Crown, like just came out and I crushed it in like a day and he's like an indie author. He's originally from UK. He lives in Ontario. And he's got like 3 different series that are all told in different parts of the continent. And one series is like 6 books, another one is like 6 books, and then like the main series is like 15 books. And this last book ties all 3 series together. I like that long build and that history.
Yeah.
Whereas because of just the nature of indie comics, I unfortunately, as much as the artists and the writers have all the stories in their brains, a lot of us are doing this as a side thing.
Yeah.
Because we have jobs and bills to pay and whatnot, and we don't get the issues out as quickly as we want. And so I tend to wait until there's multiple issues if I'm going to grab something.
Yeah.
As much as I might like a cover and want to grab it, I know for me it's hard to pull the trigger when I'm going to read it in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it does make it hard to spend the money for one, knowing you're going to have to wait 6 months, maybe even a year for issue 2 on the book.
And it's not even that. It's just the way I read. I've always read fast. The other thing for me too is if it's going to draw me in, it's going to be the line work on the cover. If it's a cover drawing me in specifically, I want to see good inking. With how much focus I spend on inking, I want to see good inking. If it looks sloppy or haphazard or it's not inked well, it's not going to draw me in. I want to see something that catches my eye, something different. Sometimes it's a face, like just the way a face is done. Sometimes it's the pencil. Sometimes the way it's lit. Sometimes it's the scenery in the background. I mean, some covers are sold. Never mind the characters on the cover. If the scenery is done well, it's going to draw people in. We've all seen comics with terrible background scenery. We've all seen comics like interiors, exteriors with amazing scenery, and the characters are like, but we spend so much time getting sucked into looking at the world because the world is done so well that it seems lived in.
Yeah,
that'll draw me in. Sometimes it's just like, oh, awesome! I like this other thing that this person did. I'm going to get this too.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, and even if it's not something that I'm going to necessarily enjoy the reading because it's just not my cup of tea. I mean, let's be honest, we're all creatives. It's all subjective. Some people love certain things, some people don't. Like, I loved John Romita Jr.'s way he drew Spider-Man. I did not love the way Todd McFarlane drew him as some jacked up, muscle-bound body that's more suited to Wolverine than Peter Parker.
It is. Because he went from Wolverine, though, to Peter Parker, though.
But that being said, McFarlane's a great example. There's always something to be found in everyone's art that is great. I hated the way he drew Spider-Man, but man, I love the way McFarlane drew webbing.
Yeah.
Right?
He changed the game in webbing.
Yeah, he's the first that drew the spaghetti webbing, where it's everywhere. What happens to all the extra webs? He did that. That's his thing. And more than the way he drew Spidey, more than that one, cover of him covered in spiders and squatting there, the way he did webbing changed the character more than anything else he ever did on Spidey.
Yep.
Right?
And I think there's like one cover that he really did that everybody's like, I want that cover. And then the webbing. To me, those are the two things, he did for Spider-Man. But let's keep getting on, man. I didn't realize we were already at like an hour and 20. It's amazing how time flies when you're into it.
Yeah.
But so you've worked with other creatives. Like literally that's your job, is you're going to work with other creative people. So what do you think makes a good collaboration?
When one person puts out an idea and you all just spiral down a rabbit hole. Sometimes it just works.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it just works. You like for Inheritance, we've got the Discord that Brendan and Doug and I set up. And until we all appeared on a podcast together like 2 months ago, we'd never actually even gotten on a voice call with each other before.
Yeah.
All three of us at once. All of it had just been like 4 a.m. random essays on Discord of ideas and, hey, do we like this better? Do we like that better? And we're just like, rapid fire ideas going off to tweak things or change how they look, or what if we did this, or hey, can we try this? And it just, when it works, it works. And you just got to find people you have fun with. I think that's where the best partnerships are built, is, with anything creative. If you can follow each other down that rabbit hole, awesome. That's going to turn out something good. That's going to turn out something fun.
Shout out to my boy, Kelvin Cayley. He's getting ready to go and do, I think, a podcast for MPX tonight. He popped into the chat room and I was just like, the fuck are you doing? So pardon me if anybody's seen my face. It's because literally Kelvin popped into the wrong room. He popped away and then popped back out. I was just like, what are you doing? You probably missed it because he popped in at the bottom where I let everybody in.
Oh, yeah. So, I didn't see anything pop up there, but.
No, that's why I just all of a sudden started laughing, because he just popped in, realized he was in the wrong room, he gave me one of these and was like, gone. So, but that's my boy. That's my brother, dude. So, how do you communicate with writers and pencilers during a project? Is it email, text messages? Are y'all going on back and forth on Instagram?
Mainly Discord. Honestly, mainly just Discord. Because it timestamps everything. You can add video, you can add images, screen grabs. You can pop into a voice chat if you need to real quick. And it's just got everything there, and you can pin the messages. In my day jobs, I've worked with so many different companies that use completely different chat systems that are all trying to replicate Slack, and they all do it to some level of success or not. And the best communication program out there is really Discord. Like the guys that made it, they pretty much hit the nail on the head.
I'm pretty sure they're wiping their ass on 20s.
Yeah, and not even like our plastic Canadian ones, but like the American ones.
Exactly, that was my point. They're
still actually cloth.
Yeah, they're wiping their ass on 20s for sure. Sorry, I'm still laughing because he just sent me a chat. It's like, hey, my bad. I was like, that's just funny to me. But so what do you think is the biggest challenge working in indie comics? And I can't remember if you worked in any of the bigger studios yet or not. But what's the biggest challenge?
That's the hope.
Yeah, but what's the biggest challenge out there for you?
I'm an inker.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, no. In all seriousness, that's probably for what I do specifically. That's probably the biggest challenge with indie comics is because often the writers that are funding everything and hiring the artists themselves,
Mm-hmm.
they can't afford to pay an artist like a penciler and an inker and a colorist and a letterer. And if they were to try and do that, it's going to raise the costs on Kickstarter and the target that you got to hit substantially.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, even the big publishers, like I said earlier, they're not using inkers as much anymore. For me,
and
it's
it's funny you brought that up because when I was doing the new comic book day content, there wasn't a whole lot of inkers out there that I would be listing as a part of a creative team for a big name book. And I always, because you would get the penciler, the colorist, the artist, the cover artist, and the writer. And I'm like, nobody does inks anymore. I'm like, because I'm talking big books, Marvel, DC, Image, and there would just not be an inker.
Yep. And it's the inkers that are good stand out and they still get work on a regular basis. And sometimes you'll see issues where it's different people doing the inks because they're trying to meet the deadline. Maybe the penciler doesn't do inks themselves. Maybe they don't have the time to do it because they're doing pencils on
multiple projects.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they just prefer doing it that way, right? The workflow just works for them. I mean, we talked Jim Lee earlier. He still uses Scott Williams. Doesn't mean Jim Lee can't ink. If you look at the 1992 X-Men trading cards, he did all the inks on those
He did
himself.
inks, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and they look great. Those. I mean, those
literally
are
sitting
still
on the shelf over there. Yeah. The trading cards are literally just sitting right over here on the shelf.
Yeah, like I've got the book where it's actually like they go
okay.
Yeah, like discussing like how the project came about, why we decided to do it this way. The colorist, because he did all the colors with actual like physical markers. All the cards in that set were all physically colored. None of them were digital.
That's so cool because I mean I don't want to get up because my cats will jump up and expect me to get up and get them snatched, so I'm not going to get up. But literally like 10 feet away, I think I have damn near the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, you asked what's going to be what's the hardest thing in indie comics or working in indie comics and trying to get into it. It's that I do a niche thing that isn't as common anymore, right? And it's not that it's not common. It's not that it's not needed. I mean, inks are needed in comics. Unless it's a like full on like painted issue, like Alex Ross kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, is gorgeous, but man, time consuming. All the pages got to be inked at some point. But a lot of folks are either doing it themselves or they're paying one artist to do both, which, it's one of the other downsides with just creatives as a whole. There's a lot of undercutting going on where, like my actual page rate that the pros have told me that I should be charging for what I do, I can't charge.
Yeah.
Because I won't get any work at it at all. Especially when you've got some guys that are doing, I'll do a page of inks and pencils together for $40.
Yeah. And you see so much of that too on Facebook, man. And I'm just like, how are you making like okay. Like,
yeah, and it's unfortunate.
Like, what's the quality of that like if you're only charging that?
Well, that's just it. Some of the guys, it's still quality work. It's just maybe they do it faster and it doesn't take them as long. Maybe they're fine taking that to do it just to get the work. Maybe they just want to get their name out on something. Who knows? I mean, there's any number of factors. I mean, even just like how far a dollar will stretch in one country versus another, right? I mean, that's a factor, right? Because especially when we're on the internet, we're everywhere. And the other thing too is we're artists, we're creatives, we're always hungry to do work. So we'll do what we can to get the jobs. I mean, it is what it is. That's why I don't charge what I've been told I should based on what I do with my inks. And that's just a reality of comics as a whole, regardless of what role you're in, whether you're doing the story or you're doing the inks or you're doing the color, or even if you're just editing a comic and going back and tweaking dialogue, right? You're still, it's a non-standard industry. It's, what does someone think your work is worth?
Yeah, it's funny you said it's a non-standard industry, but the industry has a standard that's non-standard, and that's what's wild
Well,
about it. So, but let's start wrapping this up. Man, you down for some rapid fire questions?
go ahead.
All right, traditional or digital?
Traditional. No question.
I did have favorite horror artist, but let's just go favorite artist.
Oh, right now, Scott Eaton, because again, all that like direct one-on-one feedback I've gotten from him has been
Yeah.
amazing. Like just amazing. And it's been really fun to talk like his process with him one-on-one like that. Favorite artist of all time though, John Romita Jr.
Damn,
I grew up on his
Yeah.
Spider-Man run in the 90s. He drew
Yeah.
that long and lanky, lean Peter Parker, and it's
Yeah.
that rough, quick sketch style that's just an evolution very clearly of his father's style, but he made it his own and went his own
Yeah.
way with it. And like you see a page and you know it's John
Yeah.
Romita Jr. And you know,
No,
other
that's
than him,
fun.
obviously Jim Lee, because I mean that issue of X-Men, and you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I have it.
I do too.
I actually might
it's-
have multiple copies of it. I'm pretty sure I do.
That I don't have, but like just the way he approached that cover, that fold-out cover, right?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, even just that simple scene of Jean when they're doing that exercise, the gold team and the blue team doing that exercise to try and tag Chuck at the very beginning. That scene where Jean is talking about Gambit's looks, and Scott's like, "Remind me to drop a truck on him, a big truck, a really big truck."
Yeah.
Right? Even just a simple dialogue scene like that, the way he captured Jean's face, the way he captured Scott just looking like, I'm gonna fucking kill that Cajun, right? You know, and just the way he got like, yeah, man, like there's so few guys that can do what he does.
Yeah, and that was back in the day when all the X-Men were sleeping with all the X-Men.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you had a dream project, what would it be?
Excalibur.
Ooh, fucking A, yeah.
Excalibur, yeah. One of my, actually, what made me fall in love with Eaton's work specifically was New Excalibur, 2016.
Yep.
Issue 17, I want to say it was.
Okay.
Where it's after Talia had her stroke in the middle of like a big supervillain fight. And issue 17 was her like starting the recovery process from a stroke. And that's a very humanizing thing that you don't get a lot in comics.
Yeah.
Especially superhero comics. Regular human frailty is not something that's typically addressed in comics. I mean, Magneto was in Auschwitz. It's 2025. Magneto's like 100 some odd years old. And he is still jacked.
Dude, big time.
But like regular human frailty, and that those hospital scenes, her, you know, lying in the hospital bed unconscious with Sage just watching her, making sure she's okay. Talia in her own head talking about to herself about like, am I ever going to be able to do this again? Right? Her going through physiotherapy and learning to walk again when she used to like do handstands on her fingertips while juggling. Right? I mean, her father is granted from an alternate dimension, but he's still Kurt freaking Wagner. Right?
Yep.
And I also really loved it because it was really the beginning of Kane Marco's turn as a hero, because he really, really cared about Talia and wanted to make sure she was okay. And just a lot of great emotion in those pages. So Excalibur, I mean, you know, I started reading X-Men Classics, right? So to me, Rachel Summers is Phoenix, right? Shadowcat, Nightcrawler. What is not to like about the idea of working on Excalibur? And Captain Britain. I mean, Brian Braddock. I mean, okay, technically it's Betsy now, which is great. And I love that Betsy's got her own thing there and that she's with Rachel. Freaking love that. But just like the entire Captain Britain mythos does not get enough love because, I mean, you're getting your superpowers from Merlin. I mean, we all know King Arthur and Excalibur and the Round Table and Merlin. To be given your superpowers by Merlin and have part of your power based on the faith and belief of the entire nation that you're supposed to protect, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I was like, dude, that's a good one. But one word to describe your art style?
I have no idea, in all honesty. I have never even
Fair enough. That's
considered
fair.
that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Ask the Chris's next time you see them. See if you get an answer, because I'd really like to know myself.
I'll do that. I'll do that. But what's coming up for you next?
Well, obviously, AHA is, I think we're at like, what, 78% funded or something like that right now?
I think so. Yeah, maybe more.
Yeah. I know tomorrow, if anybody has already been looking at the campaign and has not actually looked at the comments and updates from Chris with a C, tomorrow some bonus things are going live as being
Yep, I've seen
available.
that.
So some of the original art pages are going to be available for AHA, so you can add them to your existing order. So if you want original pages from AHA, you can. So you know what that is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's up there. I think a couple of the other covers are up there. Some of the internal pages. Another Kickstarter that I mentioned earlier, Inheritance with Doug and Brendan, that just got funded a few weeks ago. Brendan was finishing off the rest of his projects, and he has, I believe, as of yesterday, tucked into the pencils. So as soon as I get those pages from him, they're getting printed out, and I'm hitting the inks on those. And then they go to Doug as I'm finishing those off. So I'll probably ink my way through the entire issue first. It goes to Doug. Doug wants to flat Inheritance himself, so letting him do it. So he's flatting those, and once they're flatted, they come back to me to do the colors, and then, you know, like a pinball, they go back to Doug again to do the letters. Beyond that, I've got a side project that I'm slowly picking away at the research on, with the idea being to use comics to tell actual history and not sensationalize it like 300 or something. Don't get me wrong, 300 is great, but it doesn't tell the actual history.
Yeah.
Right. My thought was tell the actual history of some important figures and characters. So that's sort of on a side burner. Beyond that, I do have well, cross your fingers for me. I got an interview on Thursday with a Canadian publisher to potentially be working on 184-page graphic novel doing the inks. So
dude, that's good stuff.
Fingers
right there.
crossed. That'll keep me real busy for a while.
Yeah.
And then just slowly plugging away. Adding things to the portfolio. Constantly posting on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. I'm always sharing the different projects that I'm working on.
That's a perfect lead in, man. Tell people where they can find you.
So on pretty much everything, I can be found under Travis James Inks or Travis James Art, depending on the platform and what was taken or not. lnk.bio/Travis James Inks, all one word, should get you to everything. Usually TikTok is the first place you'll see the stuff posted. I set up a camera with overhead, and I'll do like time lapse of physical inks. I'll do time lapse of digital inks when I'm doing something, because some things I want to practice colors on, and I want to knock out the inks quickly.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. One piece, for example, that I'm working on right now, I started coloring it earlier. And this was just for fun. I saw this one artist on Instagram, loved her stuff, Elisa Felice. She's done some work for Marvel. She's got her own series. I commented on the one piece. She sent me like a high-res things to ink, just for the heck of it. And I hadn't got around to them yet, but I saw another one that she did of just one character. I'm like, you know what? I want to ink that just for fun. So I inked it digitally. She loved it. Asked whether or not she could color. I'm like, well, I was going to color it as well. So if you want to, sure, I'm going to be coloring it anyway. She's like, oh, no, then I'll wait. So I actually started the colors on that. And a lot of times you'll see me toss up pages, not to sell or to promote any particular project. It's just a piece that I think is cool. And I ink it and I'll color it because I just think it's cool and I want to work on it. And I think that's one of the other fun things about focusing on inks is I'm constantly getting to play around with different styles and different looks and different pencils.
And the idea of being able to do that every day and just see tons of cool art first and add that little touch to make it pop even more, that was really cool. And I mean, that's I think one of the big reasons I do what I do. So even if I don't have any major projects coming out that you're going to be able to necessarily get into your hands, check this stuff out. I mean, I'm constantly posting stuff. I'm always down for some suggestions on things to play around with. You know, I'm always working on something new just to expand what I can do. So
awesome stuff, dude.
You won't be bored.
No, you definitely won't. Go get lost on his Instagram for a little bit. You'll be happy you did. But all the links he mentioned are down in the description of this video, including the link to the Kickstarter AHA for you to check out. But if you made it this far, you already know this is what we do. We shine a spotlight on the creators behind the series, the artists behind the shadows, and the talent bringing indie comics to life. Make sure you check out AHA, a horror anthology, and support the campaign. Follow Travis, support his work, and keep your eyes on what's coming next, because this is just the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. This has been the USDN podcast, where indie comics come to life. Y'all be safe out there.
It's a trap!